All right, let's transition to Q&A, taking risks at work. How do you ensure that a risk won't turn into a significant career setback? Okay, dude, you can't. So that's my first thing, is that's what's great about a risk, right? That's what's great about the Kendra Scott story is when all the other designers were like mailing their stuff into the showroom, she's like, my existence, my livelihood, my salary is based on me getting people to buy my jewelry, and I sure as hell better show up and make sure that happens. So when you take a risk, you cannot guarantee that you're going to succeed. That's the glory of a risk. I think the other thing about a risk is that's exactly what makes it so exciting. The idea that you might fail. Like, I think that can propel you into a place. I look at my own life. I look at Barstool Sports in particular. Really, that Barstool Sports changed my life because I wasn't sure it was going to work. And as a result, I worked so hard to be sure I didn't fail. I'm not alone in that. I'm not unique in that. But if you take a risk, you are never going to be able to guarantee that it won't create a quote unquote setback. What I believe is that the risk, even if it's a total failure, it's a dog, it bombs, it's a disaster, it's not going to hurt you because you're going to learn something from it. You're going to take lessons away from it. You're going to have made one or two connections which will be helpful for you. And then 5 years down the road, when you're doing the next thing or the big thing, that failure, that experience of taking the risk and having it not work out is going to teach you and prepare you for that opportunity. So if you're looking for a bubble wrapped career where you never have, it's like chutes and ladders. You never go up to the top and go down to the bottom. Your career's not going to be that interesting. But if you are willing to accept that, like, shit, this might not work out, then you can do anything. The other thing is that nobody cares about your career besides you. So I don't even know what a career setback is. Like, I had a career setback. I was making a ton of money, and then I went to making no money and believing that the equity would work out. The equity absolutely did not work out. So, like, I guess that's a career setback. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been equipped to take this job at Barstool. So I think everything kind of works out. You got to have the mindset that everything is going to work out and everything is going to be okay. But it's a really good thing to push yourself into the unknown. Second question, after you create an idea, what's your suggestion for building support around that idea in order to succeed? This is a great question. I think sometimes people think just having the idea is enough. I actually would disagree with that. I think the idea is like 20% of things, and 80% of it is building support and endorsement for that idea. So one thing that I've always tried to do is when I had an idea, it's to over-communicate the absolute hell out of it. So if you have a vision, I met with KFC Radio this morning, and we're trying to figure out how Barstool New York can be a huge comedy hub, how we can attract all the best up-and-coming talent to come here, how we can sign comedians, how we can make specials, how we can do pay-per-views. Like, we were imagining all the things that we could do to make Barstool Sports New York more of a place that helps comedians. The next step, that's the idea. The next step is like, how's this going to work? It has to be communicated to production. It needs to be communicated to finance. It needs to be communicated to the HR team. It needs to be socialized amongst the comedy people here. The idea itself should be told to the press. So one of the biggest things about making an idea a reality is having a plan for execution and just communicating it. The other thing is, don't get all wandery on your ideas. Like, I tend to wander all the time. Like, my brain just goes to dumb places constantly. But you've got to stay focused on what the original idea is. How do we make Barstool New York a hub for comedy? Anytime a comedian is coming through town, anytime a comedian wants a springboard on their career, anytime anybody wants to sell a comedy special, how do we make this the place? That's the idea. And then the question is, how do we support our own talent doing that? How do we make sure we don't, take a bath financially doing it? How do we make sure all the right comedy people know about it? And then how do we make sure that when we execute it and we produce it, that it's something that can work? So communicate a lot, have a vision and a plan, and be able to execute the plan. And don't keep changing the vision. Make the vision as simple and straightforward as possible. All right, third question. There are thousands of good ideas worth pursuing. We only have so much capacity. Therefore, we have to focus and choose opportunities carefully. How do you decide which great ideas are worth going all in on and which to leave for others to tackle? This is a tough one. I think it's amazing to be at a place where there's unlimited potential and where you could pursue any number of things. I think in your gut, you really understand which things could work and which things can't. I also think it's really important to have partners and people who have vision. So people who can see a future or people who believe in something. We just launched Tuye, which is this athlete marketplace. I'm not convinced it's going to work. I'm hopeful that it's going to work. I'm bullish on it. But mostly I trust the people who are building it. And I believe in what we've amassed in all these athletes. So in my opinion, that's an idea that we want to get behind and that we want to support. There's other ideas that we have all the time. New licensing partnerships, new brands that we could create. At least I try to think through that is, does it have a person who can drive this to conclusion? Does this map to a core set of abilities that your team or your company has? Is this aligned to what your business is? Like, does this make sense for your company? Ideas that fit into those sweet spots are ideas that you should pursue. Ideas that don't feel like they map directly to those things are ideas you should put to the side. Okay, so then just to wrap it up on risk, I think everybody takes risks, and you should give yourself a pat on the back when you do take a risk. A risk just means that you're making a move, and that you don't exactly know where that move is going to take you or how that move is going to end up. And, I feel like I've taken a lot of risks. I've jumped around my career. I've lived in different places. I've worked for different sized companies. I've taken bets on different type of people. Obviously, coming to Barstool was a big risk that, we worked hard to make pay off. I think it's really good to put yourself in a place of being uncomfortable. I've always said that. I think I'm so grateful for the points in my life when I've been uncomfortable. It's unpleasant to be uncomfortable. I've been in an unpleasant place, I would say, for the last 6 years. But it's been breathtaking. It's been breathless. I think I'll be tired for a decade after, my Barstool Sports time and everything that's happened in my life and everything that's happened here. But it was so enriching. I'll be thinking about this for my entire life and looking back on it and enjoying the journey of it. And so for me, the biggest thing I would say, and I think Kendra Scott kind of said this too, which is don't look at things as failure. Things aren't binary. Something isn't going to be good or bad. Bad things can turn into great things later. Good things cannot actually be that good for you. So just having some perspective on it's all going to be okay. Being willing to be uncomfortable and still being able to be happy and confident and learning despite being uncomfortable. I think those are skills that you can take with you, your entire life, and it will give you memories that you can look back on. The other thing I thought that I really liked from what Kendra said is just the idea of journaling. I wished I journaled more. It was funny, I was talking to my brother, and I just read this book called Shantaram, which is this really amazing long novel about an expat, this Australian criminal who escapes from jail and he moves to Bombay. And it's really the story of his life in Bombay. And it's kind of fantastical, and there's drama and crime and love and all these things. And it's based on a true story of the writer who escaped from jail and moved to Bombay. And I was talking to my brother about it because my brother is an expat. And he was like, he's like, yeah, everybody tells me I'm like this guy. And I'm like, oh, you should write a book like that. And he's like, I didn't journal, so I can't remember all the specifics of the journey. And it's all of the specifics of the journey that make things so rich. Like, I'm struggling with this right now. Like, I'm trying to remember, as we move closer to all the pen stuff, like, I'm trying to remember all those special moments from way back being 6 years ago, which I can't even remember at this point. And I wish that I journaled. And I think the thing about taking risk is that you always look back on your risks that you've taken and you feel good about them. I really think people feel good about them. And journaling what it felt like, how you were scared, how you were unsure, the self-doubt that you have, the hopes that you have, it just helps you learn more from your experience, and I think can ultimately help you take more away from those solutions and more away from those situations. So that's kind of my 2 cents there.